Hello, everybody. Today is the... No. So today is the day I've been waiting for 20, 30 years. The day when I really, really wish I'd studied Hungarian at school. Unfortunately, I can't speak Hungarian, so I apologize. You'll need to listen to me in English. I've spent 20 years in recruitment and sourcing and recruitment marketing. And today I run a marketing automation product in recruitment called Candidate.ID. I'm going to talk to you about some of the world-class thinking within marketing and how we can apply it to talent acquisition today. People often say, recruitment's marketing, isn't it? No, it's not. It's lots of other things as well. People often say, recruitment's sales, isn't it? Again, no, it's missing a lot of things. It's not just sales. But actually, if you look at a combined sales and marketing unit, a high-performing sales and marketing unit that's data-driven, that's all about channels, it's actually doing something very, very similar to what we're doing in talent acquisition. It's about getting a message to everybody that you might sell something to or hire. It's about doing something to generate goodwill with those people, to generate interest, to bring them through a funnel to the point where they're ready to buy or they are ready to join your organization. So there are a lot of parallels. So some of the concepts that I think are really important. The first is we take our, maybe not our laptops, but we definitely take our phones to the toilet. And we do it because we're getting messages through email, text, WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc., etc. The average person working in talent acquisition has 10 different channels of communication that they're using on a weekly basis. That's too many, and although our brains are quite powerful, they're not powerful enough to cope with that many messages, all marked as high priority, coming to us from multiple people in multiple channels. Candidates have the same problem. We're competing for attention. We're competing with social media. We're competing with the work that they have today. We're competing with their families. We're competing with their friends to get mind share. So we have to be really smart about the way that we become one of the 10 channels that somebody's going to look at regularly. Now, in order to try and control what people are doing and how they're interacting with you and how they're getting your messages and responding to those, we do need to be aware that candidates are very unpredictable. They behave in erratic micro moments, and we describe that as the flight of the bumblebee. A bumblebee is the only flying creature which does not have a predictable flight pattern. Comes out of a flower, and there's no way of knowing whether it's going to go forwards, backwards, left, or right. Candidates are basically the same. Okay? So you can set out a journey, a perfect journey that you think the candidate's going to love this. They're going to open this email, they're going to click on that link, they're then going to apply for the job. No, they're almost certainly not going to do that because their Facebook's going to flash up and they end up on there looking at somebody's comment on their picture. So we need to be aware that candidates are going to behave in very difficult to predict ways, and as a result, we need to be everywhere they are. Sorry, I'm not having a good... I keep going back to that same picture. I'm pressing this. Okay. Now, something else that we need to consider is almost all recruitment marketing today is what I would describe as net fishing. Net fishing has a definition of success, which is we'll bring in a great big catch, and it doesn't matter if we then have to spend a lot of time throwing a lot of the fish back because it's not what we're actually looking for. Okay? In recruitment, we're doing a lot of that. In sourcing, we're doing it. In our advertising, we're doing it. I prefer to think about what we should be doing in terms of spearfishing. Much more accurate and much more targeted. We can save vast amounts of time in sourcing by taking the spearfishing approach, and the way that we can do that is by understanding a lot more about candidates. We need technology to give us that information. If you're managing a candidate pool of, say, 300 candidates, and you want to keep in touch with them one-to-one, you can do that over about a 3-month period. At the end of that 3 months, the people you talked to 3 months ago, their circumstances have changed. If you're managing a candidate pool of 3,000 or 30,000 or 300,000, I know companies with millions of people on their applicant tracking systems across the world. You can't keep in contact with those people. So I'm going to say it. I'm just going to say it. I think recruiters are addicted to social media, to job boards, and to staffing agencies. And the reason they're addicted is because they're not farming their existing candidate databases properly, and therefore when the vacancy's signed off, they have to do the thing that is fastest to get a shortlist. If you're farming your candidate database properly, fish farming it, I guess, then you can go spearfishing, and the vacancy signed off, you can use the data that you're given to know exactly who's got the right qualifications and who's ready for a conversation based on their interactions with your content. All of what I'm talking about is going to come together neatly very soon. So when we think about sales and marketing-led pipelines, in B2B, like in tech companies, for example, the sales pipeline is almost 100% generated by marketing teams and the work that they're doing. In recruiting, 95% of our pipeline is what I would call sales generated. It's one-to-one. It's us going and finding people, trying to convince them that they should be interested in an opportunity. We've fallen behind the mainstream sales and marketing world because the emphasis is on salespeople is closing the deal, and they're not talking to people to try and convince them to have a conversation or to look at the product. They're only talking to people who are clearly ready for a conversation. We need to be doing exactly the same in recruitment. We need recruiters to be focused on talking to people who are ready for a conversation, and based on their behavior, based on you know what they've been doing and how they've been interacting with your content. We're spending far too much time doing cold outreach to people. We also need to think about relationships with people across the span of their careers, right into the end of their career, from the very beginning, the day they enter the workplace, right through to the day they retire. And we need to think about an ongoing relationship with those people all the way through that. I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about you're a clinical research organization with any clinical project managers or clinical trials experts. You are a software company with every software engineer in Budapest. You need to be keeping a relationship with them from the moment they become a software engineer to the moment they retire. So relationships over the course of their career. Again, in sales and marketing, they're doing this better. They are thinking about total lifetime value of a customer. What's changed in the candidate journey? So when I started in recruitment 20 years ago, candidates could become aware of your organization and opportunities with your organization through publicly available information. They then needed to talk to a recruiter very early in their decision making. Today, however, candidates can find out what it's like to work in your business. They can find out what career paths look like. They can find out what they're going to get paid. They can find out the CEO's inside leg measurement. They can find out lots and lots of information. They don't need to talk to recruiters until much later in their self-directed journey. So we need marketing techniques, we need marketing processes to be able to nurture those relationships and understand where people are in that pipeline. We talk about it in terms of awareness, education, consideration, and application. That's the kind of marketing term. You might think about it in terms of candidates who are cold, warm, hire ready. You shouldn't be having one-to-one conversations with those who are cold. You should only be having one-to-one conversations with those who are at the end of the warm phase or into hire ready. Using data, you can understand this. So using certain types of technology, you can understand that in the last week, John opened an email from you but did nothing else. Jane opened the email, clicked a link, looked at your landing page, looked at your company on Glassdoor, looked at your YouTube video, looked at the hiring manager's LinkedIn profile, and looked at the job description, but then didn't apply. So why didn't she apply? We want to know, we want those signals that she's done these things, and we want to be able to then go and make contact with her. She's a hot lead, very hot lead. And often the reason somebody doesn't apply, from our data, 5 out of 6 people who look at a job description don't apply. The reasons they don't apply, there's a million reasons why they don't apply, including, I heard last week, one person said, I didn't know if I could bring my dog to the office. And that was the reason they didn't apply. Fine, if the recruiter knows that, the recruiter is able to have that conversation and then tell them whether they can bring their dog to the office or not. We definitely need a different approach for regular hires versus irregular hires. For those regular hires, for, as I mentioned, in a scientific business, it's scientists. In a technology company, it's software engineers. In an accountancy firm, it's accountants and tax advisors. You need to farm your database. You need to nurture them by sending regular communications to them, tracking and scoring what they're doing so you know who's cold, warm, and hire ready, and automatically being able to deliver them a personalized experience. Because you know, because John clicked on the CEO's blog, next week, John will get the CEO's next blog. Jane looked at what's it like to work here. The next week, Jane will get career stories. Farming your database. It's the biggest crime in recruitment. We're not doing it. One company I know has 10 million people on their data applicant tracking system globally at a cost of, on average, $10 US dollars per person. That's a $100 million asset that this company never uses for shortlists, for sourcing. Hunting. So, irregular hires. Yeah, I'm not saying sourcing's dead. I'm not saying go and find those 10 people in your city who can do the job and go and outreach to those 10 people. For the irregular hires, there's not much point in farming. But if you're farming the regular hires, you're going to get to shortlist much, much faster every time. We do need to think about, again, in marketing, they think about this much, much better than we do. Your total addressable market. Not who's available today, not who's applied through that job ad. That's not the addressable market. Your total addressable market is everybody within the radius of your office or your factory or whatever you're recruiting for who might have the skills to do that job. We really need to think about who are they. Let's get some kind of acknowledgement with all of them, and then let's try and bring them all through the funnel by nurturing them. Talent pipelines. This is my absolute favorite subject. A pipeline exists when you know who's cold, who's warm, who's hire ready. A list of names on an ATS or on a CRM or on a pad of paper is not a talent pipeline. So we need to think about talent pipelines in terms of who's cold, who's warm, who's hire ready. That's my definition. And when you start thinking like that, you can make recruitment much, much more productive. A talent community is also not a list of people on your database. A talent community exists when all the members can interact with each other. Specsavers, which is one of Europe's, I think it's Europe's biggest optometry retailer. I don't think they're in Hungary, but they're mostly in Western Europe. They have an absolutely brilliant talent community called Green Club. This is the homepage for Green Club on the internet. It doesn't mention Specsavers anywhere. But what they do is they share skills, learning, other useful and relevant information for optometrists. And they keep coming back. But Specsavers knows when that optometrist has gone from Green Club onto the Specsavers career site and started looking at jobs. That sends an alert into the recruiter. They get to shortlist much, much faster. They get hot leads coming in as well. Talent brand, another really, really important thing. Everybody knows about employer brand. Personally, I think employer brand is something that's overblown. I think it's absolutely focused on far too much in recruitment, because employer brand's only really relevant to those people that have started to look at your business and are wondering if they might want to work there. Most people aren't there yet, and some people are past that. So it's actually just a moment in time piece of information. Talent brand, on the other hand, can start much earlier in the process. So if you've got a CEO like Sally Abbott, who has on her LinkedIn profile why I love working for Weetabix with the bullet points of why she loves working there, you know, those kinds of things are really powerful. The future for employer branding is, as far as I'm concerned, about data. It's about data and insights. What is somebody looking at? That'll tell you whether they're ready for a conversation or not. The future for sourcing is about, I believe it's about nurture marketing, and it's about data analysis. Sourcers have got lots of skills that can be used for nurturing pipelines and for really determining which candidates are cold, warm, and hire ready today. This is the kind of content map that you might think about for nurturing candidates. I'm conscious that there's a lot of information on there, but very simply, content for people who are cold is skills, industry insights, things that help them with their career. Content for those who are warm is employer branding. Content for those who are hire ready is hiring manager videos. It's what's it really like to work here. It's the job description. Think about segmenting it like that. And then think about scoring. When somebody's clicking on these different things, how valuable is it? How much of an indicator is it they're ready for a conversation? Down the bottom, channels and formats. Somebody opens an email, 1 point. Somebody watches a video, 5 points. Down the left-hand side, subjects. Somebody's looking at skills or industry insights, 1 point. Somebody's looking at your career-related event, doing a job search on your career site, 10 points. And an alert going into the recruiter. We're coming towards the end here. In terms of GDPR, some organizations can use legitimate interest as the legal basis for processing. If you're tracking and scoring what candidates are doing, then you've got automatic GDPR compliance because the retention date keeps going into the future every time they click. If you're using legitimate... Thank you so much.